welcome to episode 56 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. And today is Wednesday, the 6th of April. I don't know why I keep needing to check the date, even though I've just written it down on my show notes a moment before I start filming. Anyway, my name is Mina, and I'm coming to you from my home here in Bahrain. I am originally from the UK, and I now live in the Middle East with my husband and our 2 cats. In case this is your first time checking me out, thank you very much for checking out the podcast, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. You're the reason why I do this. I wouldn't be doing this, I wouldn't be sat here every week filming if you guys weren't enjoying it. What was I going to say? Places you can find me. I am on Instagram as Mina Phillip, on Ravelry as Mina86. You can find the group for the podcast on Ravelry as the Knitting Expat Podcast in the group section. And show notes for this and all previous episodes can be found at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. And everything else that you could possibly want is linked down below the video on YouTube. Sorry. My little co-host has shown up and wants to be part of the action. Yeah? You want to come? Honestly, I think now he's just realised that when I start talking to myself that this is podcast time and therefore lap time. Come on. Come on, good boy. And for those of you who don't know, this is Hugo, one of my 2 cats. He has recently become quite the lap cat and comes to join me on the podcast when I film. And most of you seem to love seeing him. Derek, on the other hand, is a little bit more elusive. So I hope you enjoyed the little intro section to the podcast, which is a bit of a little video clip I took of Derek one morning. I think it was over the weekend. He was all sleepy and like strokey and cuddly. So yeah. And this is Hugo. Hey, buddy. Everyone loves you. You're the real star of the show. Yeah. Oh, look at that face. I call that his Jabba face, like Jabba the Hutt. He has a little Jabba the Hutt face going on. Anyway. So we'll see how long he stays for, because he doesn't always hang out forever. Right, so first thing, a few little admin-y type stuff to go through first. I've been chatting with one of the lovely viewers, Jen, who I've been chatting with on Instagram and on Ravelry quite a lot. She's very active in the group and in the threads and stuff. So she sent me a message recently. I say recently, like mid-March, and it took me forever to get back to her. So really sorry, Jen. About creating a thread in the group so people can share photos of where they knit. And I thought that was a really fun idea. And then I thought there's that Instagram hashtag, from where I stand. And I thought, apparently I need legs. And I thought we could have a hashtag on Instagram for from where I knit, instead of from where I stand, from where I knit. I'm not sure if I even started that correctly. There's a quite popular hashtag on Instagram called from where I stand, when people take photos from where they're standing. And I thought it'd be quite fun to do one for from where I knit, and then I'll have a corresponding thread in the group so people can share photos. Even if they're not on Instagram, they want to take part, they can share photos there. And yeah, so make sure you use that hashtag if you do want to play along. There's no prizes or anything, it's just a bit of fun. And I'll look forward to checking those out. And I'll put all the details for that in the show notes and on the episode thread, so you can easily find that. Yes? Oh, thank you. Little kitty kisses. In other news, my For the Love of Rainbow shawl is now available on Ravelry in Icelandic. Some very lovely viewers who, I don't know if they want their names mentioned, so I won't say anything, but one of them, there's a group of them, I think there's 3 ladies, one of them got in touch with me to say that they'd be interested in slowly over some time translating my patterns into Icelandic. And I said that would be amazing, thank you so much. And yeah, so the first one, For the Love of Rainbows, is now available in Icelandic on Ravelry. So if you happen to speak Icelandic and you'd like a knitting pattern in Icelandic, then you can go and check that out. And final little admin-y thing is we have a couple of giveaway threads in the podcast group for my 1-year podiversary and 5,000 subscribers. And both of those threads have been really fun to read. And especially in the podiversary thread, it's interesting to see what everyone's favourite parts of the podcast have been. Hey, no biting. He doesn't really bite to hurt. It's more of a warning sign that he doesn't like something that you're doing. But I wasn't even doing anything, so. The prompt for the podiversary giveaway was what's been your favourite part of the podcast over the last year? And it's just been really fun to read everyone's comments. For the most part, it seems the most popular answer is Hugo and Derek. Yes, you're the most popular part. And second only to Hugo and Derek is the sockathon. That seems to be a lot of people's favourites as well. And following that, people really enjoy the travel clips and when I film on location, I guess, as it were. Seeing the knitting, obviously, I'd hope that'd be someone's favourite part. Seeing the knitting and the tips and tricks and just little reviews of the yarn that I've used and stuff like that people have been enjoying. And another one that popped up quite a lot, which I was somewhat surprised about, but also quite happy to hear about, was people really enjoyed the episode I did in London. My very first episode that I filmed in London with my brother. So that's episode 9, so that's going back quite a while now. So that was quite fun to see that people liked that. He was only in it for a couple of minutes somewhere in the middle, showing some of the knits that I'd made him and what he thought of them. So it is actually quite a funny couple of minutes in there. So if you haven't checked out that episode, I would suggest you go and watch it. Also, I really liked my hair in that episode. I just had it cut short and it was all nice and curly and stuff, which is what my hair's normally like. But at the moment, my hair's grown out quite a bit. So it's up in a bun, which seems to be what I do with it all the time at the moment. And it's part of the reason why I cut my hair in the first place, because I was just so bored of doing this all the time. And I'm starting to get there again now. And my hair's getting quite long. It's sort of like down to here-ish again. Not as long as it was when I got it cut, but you guys aren't interested in my hair. But still on the hair note, what is up with all of these little wispy bits? I was told when I was younger that this would go away when I get older, when I become an adult, that these little baby hairs wouldn't hang around forever. But no, I'm almost 30 and they're still there. What is up with that? Seriously, so annoying, because no matter what I do with my hair, I always have these little crazy bits that stick out after a while. Especially if it's windy outside, it's ridiculous. On another note, I know the lighting isn't particularly amazing at the moment. I have no idea what's going on. Yesterday, beautiful lighting. Today, it's really dark. The sky's pretty overcast outside. It always seems to be on the days that I want to podcast that that it's overcast outside and it's quite dark in here. So I'm really sorry if the quality isn't that great. Moving on to podcasts, I don't have any new podcasts to recommend this week. Only because I am still catching up with all the other podcasts that I'm falling behind on. I've somewhat caught up on all the ones that I've missed while I was away, but now I'm catching up with the ones that have come out since. So it's like this constant game of like catching up. Every day I get through like a bunch, I'm like, yes, I got the number down, and then the next day it's a whole other bunch added to the list. So it's like, okay, it's that whole 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation. Oh no, that's not the wrong way around. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Or however the saying goes, it's like that. So the podcasts I'm going to mention this week are for very specific reasons. The first one is the Charlotte and Gus podcast, which I mentioned a few weeks ago. Really, really love that podcast. Love Charlotte. She's very, very sweet. I love her projects and all of that. And her adorable little cat Gus, who occasionally joins her in his box. But the reason why I wanted to mention her podcast this week is that in her episode 6, which I believe is her latest episode, she actually tells you or says the correct pronunciation for my Le Moelleux shawl, which is the one hanging up behind me. That's the brioche shawl pattern that I designed and released almost a month ago now. And and it's been really fun to see that shawl popping up on Instagram and seeing you guys knitting it and stuff. So thank you so much for that. It is otherwise known as the squishy shawl because le moelle translates to squishy from French. So, but if you want to know how to pronounce it correctly, you can go watch episode 6 of the Charlotte and Gus podcast. And there goes Hugo. He's off to investigate. I'm going to be stuck with cat butt in my face. Thank you, Hugo. Okay, he's all right for now. And the second podcast I wanted to mention is the 10,000 Stitches podcast with Andy. And again, I've mentioned her podcast a few months ago now, and her goal for this year was to knit 52 pairs of socks in 2016, one pair a week on average. And it's not just any old socks, like she's got different, I guess, sort of challenges or different sort of ideas or themes of how she's going to go about it. It's a really interesting podcast. It's not super long. It's usually around the 30 to 40 minute mark. So it's really fun to catch up with. And anyway, so a couple of episodes back, she created a small little survey on her show notes to find out what kind of sock knitters people are. Like, you know, do you knit cuff down or toe up? Do you do a short row heel? Do you do a heel flap and gusset? Do you do I think there's only like 2 or 3 questions. So magic loop or DPNs. But I thought it was quite interesting. Like she had a few responses. It wasn't a massive response initially, but I thought I would mention that here, and I'll put a link to the survey in her show notes, in my show notes. So if you guys are interested, go and check that out. It would be really interesting if we could get quite a few people, or if she could get quite a few people to enter the survey, and get a larger. What's the word now? Get a larger sample size to get more more meaningful results. So, and if you hadn't gathered, Andy is a scientist. And I'm trying to remember all my science terminology. But yeah, okay. So that pretty much is that for all of the admin-y stuff and podcasty stuff. I will be mentioning other podcasts throughout this episode, and as and when they come up relevant to what I'm talking about. And so those, any podcasts that I mention in this episode, and I do this for all episodes, occasionally I miss 1 or 2, but for the most part they are all there. I link the podcasts, their YouTube channels, or wherever else you find them, in the show notes, and then I earburn the podcasters in the episode thread on Ravelry. That's just my system, and it's what works for me. Right, so first finished object isn't actually a finished object, and honestly I feel a little bit like weird about this because I don't actually have a finished object this week. I haven't finished anything since I last podcasted, which is a very strange feeling. And I sat here thinking to myself, and I realised I have not gone a week without having a new finished object until now. It sounds a bit weird, but I know the fact that I've had a finished object every week is not the normal thing, but it was normal for me. So sorry, I just realised Hugo's gone to the end of my sewing table and just curled up. Thankfully not on any fabric, just on the table, but actually no, he is on some fabric. Alright, well I'm going to have to lint roll that later. What was I saying? I can't even remember now. Oh, finished objects, yes. I'm so easily distracted this morning. So it's been a while since I've not had any finished objects. I've never had no finished objects on an episode before, so this is very strange. But what I do have to show you is a finished object from last week that is now blocked. So last week I showed you my new shawl design, which I am working on with Nicole of the Hugo podcast and Hugo Yarns and Project Bags. She does everything. It was all crumpled up and hadn't been blocked yet, but it is now blocked, and as you can see I am currently wearing it, and I will show it to you. And I finally settled on a name for it, which is, I will tell you, is going to be called Budding Bluebells. And the reason for that I will explain. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on the camera, but this textured stitch section at the top kind of reminds me of little flower buds, and it's a very interesting texture. I love how it looks, and depending on your gauge, it's sometimes the texture they aren't eyelets, but they will look like eyelets in. I'm not sure if the lighting's going to work here or not, but if you look at it up close, it almost gives that slightly lacy feel without it being too lacy. And like I said, they aren't eyelets, but it's just the stitch and the way it works. When it's blocked, it gives that eyelet feel to it. And then the lace section at the bottom, it's not showing up particularly well in this light at the moment. There we go. The shape that the lace creates reminds me of like the hanging bluebells, the flowers, the way they hang down. You see it better if it's over here. You can see that there. So that was the inspiration behind the name. And then this is really long. This was just one sample size, and I knit this out of 130-ish, or less than 123 grams. It was a light fingering though, so it was a slightly more yardage. You could definitely knit the same size out of about 150 grams, 160 grams of regular fingering weight. So it is a 2 skein shawl. You use 1 skein for the body and then 1 for the lace edging. I used a gradient set for this one just because I was waiting for Nicole's yarn to show up and it hadn't arrived yet, but before I left for London, and I really wanted to get going on this because we wanted to host a knit along soon, and I wanted to get the first version of it done so I could see how it worked. And then I figured while I knit my second version, the pattern can go out to testers, and that kind of saves us a bit of time in terms of getting the pattern released for when we wanted to do the knit along. And yeah, that's what it looks like. This version, like I said, is pretty big. It's 217 centimeters, so 215 centimeters long, which is about 86 inches, I think. And it's about 35 centimeters or 16 inches at its deepest point. So it's not super wide, but it's very long. And you can of course wear it over the shoulders. What's really nice about the length on this sort of shawl is, as well as wearing it sort of the more traditional way, what you can do is either cross it over and tie it behind your back, or you can just put it over your shoulders, tie it behind your back, not very hard, just loosely, but then it just gives you the coverage on your arms and leaves the rest of you open, and it covers your back. So if you're wearing a strappy dress, or a dress without sleeves in the summer, or just a top or whatever it is, and if it's slightly cooler in the spring, summertime, in the evenings when you're out and you just want to cover your arms a little bit, then this is one way of wearing the shawl that I thought you might be interested in hearing about. I'm not going to put it on properly, I'm just going to, what was that? Okay, sorry. I'll just throw it over the shoulder a little bit and we'll see how this lays. It's not actually that cold in here, so I might take it off in a bit. So that's that one. And I thought I'd show you, this was the very first, once I settled on the stitches that I was going to use, I sort of did a little sample mini shawl. I always do that with my shawls. When I'm swatching, I tend to swatch in the design I'm going to use, because then that shows me how it's going to work within the shape. So there we go. And I didn't use blocking wires, I just used pins, which is why it's got the pointed edge, which you can totally do if you don't want a straight edge. Or you don't have blocking wires. It looks perfectly nice with the pointed edges as well. I quite like that myself. But so that was my little swatch to figure out how the design was going to work and how the two sections would work together, how and figuring out the maths or transitioning between the two sections. So I guess we will move on to works in progress, because like I said, I don't actually have any finished objects. So whilst we're on the subject of the Budding Bluebell shawl, I'll show you my other version that I'm knitting up. And this is being housed in my Maple Mousse Fibres project bag, Sloth project bag, which is so adorable. I love this fabric, and I've been wanting a bag out of this fabric ever since I first saw this print, and I don't know who had it first, but yeah, so when so I'm really excited to have this one. And look, a little moosey tag, how cute is that? And then there's a little moosey progress keeper, which I'm just using as a zipper pull for now. And yeah, and I like the interior as well, that lovely sort of greeny yellow colour. So as you know, like I've mentioned, I am knitting this in conjunction with Nicole's yarns. We're sort of collaborating on this. And so it's Nicole's tag, Hugo. And both, and this is the other colour, so this is the one for the main body. It's nice variegated, dual toned, very saturated colours. I love this. I was talking about it last week, how when Nicole told me what colours she'd put together, I was a bit unsure because I couldn't imagine what those four colours would look like together. But honestly, as soon as I saw the skein, I loved it, and I do love it. And this is the corresponding, so she picked out the green to be the corresponding tonal to go for the lace edging. And so both of these yarns are on her spun sock base, which is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, 400 yards in 100 meters. So that's about 366 meters in 100 grams. Sorry, 400 yards in 100 grams. It's so soft and very squishy. I'm about almost halfway through the ball for the main colour. And Nicole hasn't named these yet. She said she'd let me know once she's named them so I can tell you what they're called. But she's working on kits for this pattern, which I imagine she will be releasing soon sometime. I just saw that Nicole has a new podcast up this morning, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet. So if she doesn't mention it there, I'm sure she'll announce it soon, when the kits will be available for the shawl. But this is how it is knitting up so far. So this is just the main body texture section. And this is exactly what I had in mind for it, that it would just be little pops of texture that, because I didn't want the texture section to dominate over the lace. I wanted this to be a more subtle background effect. And I really love it in the variegation. I mean, I know some people really don't like variegated yarns in shawls, but I have so many beautiful skeins of variegated or speckled yarns that, you know, you don't always want to turn them into socks. So it's nice to have another option for them. And, you know, this shawl will look equally beautiful in just a tonal or speckled even in the main section. So, you know, you don't have to use a variegated. This is just to show what that would look like. And yeah, and it's just an opportunity to be able to use one of those crazy skeins that you have. Yeah, so I think at the moment our idea is to start the knit along on May 1st. And I'm not sure how long we're going to have it run for. Nicole and I haven't quite figured all of that out yet. But we know we're aiming for a May 1st start date. I am aiming to have the pattern released on May 1st or the day before, possibly. So, yeah, it'll either be 30th of April or May 1st when the pattern goes up. My test knitters are due to finish, well, I've asked them to be finished by the 29th of April. So as long as there aren't any major revisions to be made to the pattern at that point, then yeah, there's no reason why I couldn't get it out the day before 1st of May. And yeah, anyway, so more details to come on that front once Nicole and I have figured out exactly what we're doing for the knit along. Sorry, my hair is really distracting me because it's just puffing out. Right, my second work in progress is, let me grab it here. It's in my little bobbins bag, little bobbins sock project bag, which I got from Danny at the Curious Handmade Country House Retreat. And if you hadn't already guessed, there's a pair of socks in here, because why wouldn't they be? I'm going to show you the back because this is another design pair. I'm sorry, a lot of my projects at the moment are design projects, but cat fluff. So I can't always show you everything that I'm doing on it, but I can always show you the yarn, and that I know I can do. So this is what this one's knitting up like. This is the Uncommon Thread in Tough Love sock, trying to find a label in here. Uncommon Thread Tough Love sock, which is the BFL nylon base, which is really lovely. I've knit socks for Perry out of this before. And this is in the Leaden, at least I think that's how it is, Leaden, Leaden base. Leaden colourway, sorry. Not quite with it. It's 365 meters in 100 grams. And yeah, I'm really liking how this is working up. I'm liking how the pattern is working up on the other side. I'm just sorry I can't show it to you. I'll just pop that in like that for now. Then my next work in progress, it's another sock project design, which again I can't show you. And this one is a first sample. This isn't the final yarn that the pattern is going to be knit out of. This is one of those collaboration projects that I'm working on that I'm not really allowed to talk about yet. But this is what this colourway is knitting up like. This is Gregoria Fibers in her sock base. 75, 25, 75 superwash wool, 25% nylon. And this is dyed with onion skins. So for those of you who don't know, Gregoria Fibers does naturally dyed yarns. And yeah, so this was dyed with onion skins, and it's knitting up so beautifully. This really nice sort of sunny yellow colour, like almost buttermilk yellow. And yeah, I'm really liking how this one is knitting up and how the pattern is turning out. I did quite a short cuff on these ribbing. This is only 10 rows rather than my usual 20. This skein was a partial skein that I got as part of a swap. So I'm not going to be able to knit them as long as I normally would, which is fine. Like I said, it's just a first sample anyway. And the bag is by Shannon of Inspirational Yarns on Etsy in the UK. It's a really lovely, cute little cat's drawstring bag. If you've noticed that all my project bags at the moment are by other people, I think my intention this month is to use as many of the project bags that I have either been gifted or traded for or bought from other makers, because I realise I use a lot of my own project bags on the podcast, which is fine, and for my projects in general. But I really want to start using some of the bags that people have sent me more. So this month I'm endeavouring to use all project bags that others have sent me. Just thought I'd put that out there. And my next work in progress that I have to show you is my blanket. Look, it's a legit blanket now. It folds and everything, like it's proper big. Okay, so I believe this is the section that you haven't seen yet. I have added about 15 to 17 squares this last week. I can't actually remember where I last showed you. I think I added these 2 squares after the last time I showed you. These 2, and this is like basically upside down. And then, so those 2 I showed you are both Madeline Tosh Merino Light. This one is Lolita, and this one is Turn. This here is Malabrigo sock in Arco Iris that I used for my Across the Pond shawl, the second version. This is Pants Croy for socks. This is Cam Gun in the teal blue that I use for my Marco Polo. This is Crazy Salba wool that I knit my brother's socks out of. This is some wool butt that I used. I knit my aunt some socks out of this for Christmas. This is West Yorkshire Spinners in their Christmas colourway. Hollyberry, I think it was, that I also knit socks out of, surprisingly. Felici in Fanciful for socks. Crazy Zabba wool, this one was the Domino colourway, also socks for my dad. Osterman Step, socks. A lot of these are socks if you can't tell. Nitpicks Felici, not Felici, Stroll, hand painted in Pansy Tonal. This one is also Osterman Step. Felici in the Highlands colourway. These last 3 are really fun because these are the ones that I hand dyed. Last year, if you remember, I did some hand dyeing with food colouring, and this is 3 of the skeins that I got out of that, and I knit them up. So this one was like a rainbow. If you saw, I posted a picture on Instagram showing these yarns, and there was one that I was still winding, and it was sort of like a rainbow all the way around. That's this one. That's how this one knit up. Then this one is this crazy speckled one that I did. Well, I say speckled, it was as speckled as you can do with food colouring. And it came out like super saturated and really fun. I really like that one. And this was another one that I did. Again, really fun colours. I was super happy with how that turned out. So now my blanket is squared off. I have 160, oops, sorry I shook the camera, 160 squares in that blanket. And I'm kind of tossing and turning about what to do with it next. It's 10 squares wide by, 160 squares long. No, scratch that. 10 squares wide by 16 squares long at the moment. It's a good size for me to use on the sofa if I'm having a nap or just like want to snuggle, but I would like it to be a little bit wider. So initially I was thinking of just adding 3 or 4 rows to make it 14 squares wide. But then I was looking through my scraps yesterday, and I have enough scraps left over from 2015 to make it 9 rows wider, so 19 rows by, sorry, not 9 rows, 9 rows wider to make it 19 by 16, which would obviously make it a lot bigger. I was originally just going to go up to 16, so it'd be 16 by 16, nice sort of square shape. But I'm wondering if I don't know, do you think I should go wider than that, or should I just stick to the 16? Because that's still quite a lot. I think I'm going to sneeze in a second. Anyway, I'm still trying to decide what I'm going to do with that. So hopefully I'll make a decision in the next few days and I'll be able to get back to knitting on this. If I do decide to go up to 16 by 16, then this probably won't be finished by June, which is what I originally said last week, that I would like to have this finished by June, because that's when I started it. I figured I could do 3, possibly 4 rows by June, but if I want to go up to 6, probably won't happen by June. Maybe by the end of the summer, but not by June. So we shall see. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick break here, and I will be back. Right, so I'm going to talk about some needle adjacent stuff that I'm going to be working on in a second. So first up, this is the little project bag that we got from the Curious Handmade Country House Retreat. It's a little bit squished at the moment, but I have some yarn in here for a pair of socks. Surprise, surprise. But these socks are going to be something very specific. So the yarn is a Wool Mize Twin. It says 80/20 wool polyamide in the blue Suzanne colourway, and that is this beautiful yarn that I was gifted by a lovely viewer recently. And what I'm going to do with this, my needles, is I'm going to film a tutorial of sorts for how I knit my socks. And really thinking about it, this is only going to be the first part of the sock, the casting on, knitting the cuffs, how to get if you want to do it 2 at a time, how to do the cuffs individually and then put them onto the same needle, the orientation, all that sort of stuff, yarn management, and that's pretty much what it's going to cover. It's going to be the initial setting up, how to get started on cuff down, 2 at a time socks, and covers yarn management. What it won't cover is the heels and then the rest of the foot. The heels, because pretty much you can do whatever heel you like. Like I said before, I'm working on my own version of a German short row heel, which I will be filming a separate tutorial for. That tutorial will probably only be available to as part of future sock patterns that I release with that heel pattern in it. You'll just get a direct link in the PDF to the tutorial with the pattern. And then the rest of the foot is pretty much the same as the leg. It's just knitting either plain stockinette or in whatever pattern you are following. And then the toe is pretty simple. I don't think many people have issues with doing the toes. Again, depends what kind of toe you want to do. And the Kitchener, well, there are so many tutorials out on YouTube already for how to do the Kitchener stitch, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to cover that either. So yeah, I hope that's okay. I hope that makes sense. And I will do a separate video, which will be available like on YouTube openly. You don't have to buy a pattern to get it, for how to close the gap in the corner of your heel, either if you're doing a short row heel, and it also works for a gusset heel flap heel as well, which I talked about last week. I had a few people messaging me asking about that, and it's one of those things that it's just so much easier to show in a video than it is to try and explain it verbally. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a separate little, that will only be like 2 or 3 minutes to show how to do that, and that'll be a standalone video. And then I'll have one video for setting up and getting started on 2 at a time socks and yarn management, and then there'll be another German short row heel video, which will be part of future patterns. So that is what these socks are going to be. These are going to be my sample socks for that. And the other thing that's coming up is I swatched out of this mystery yarn that I showed you guys a few weeks ago, which I am now more and more convinced that this is more of a worsted weight than a DK, which was what the package said. I purchased a sweater quantity of this almost a year ago, of this yarn, some random odds and ends, to make a sweater out of. And I think I'm going to be making the Brownstone pullover by Jared Flood of Brooklyn Tweed. And the reason why I want to knit that is, for one thing, I've never knit a bottom-up garment before, and I really want to give that a go. It's not something I'm not scared of it. None of the patterns that were bottom-up ever really appealed to me, and I was always concerned about the item not being long enough in the end. So I just want to give it a go, and I have just about enough yarn to knit this in the size I need, and it is I pretty much got gauge. I think it was very slightly, I think it was like half a stitch off on the gauge, so I think that should be okay. So that's going to be cast on somewhat soon. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about, this isn't really neat or adjacent, but I spoke about how, I think it was after last week's episode, I snagged my this sock I was wearing, on a T-pin while my shawl was blocking, and not only did I pull a stitch, but it clean ripped the yarn apart as well, as you can see there. And I posted this to Instagram, and a few people asked for me to sort of like either explain or show how I was going to repair it. Now my idea is, what I'm going to do is I washed and blocked the socks just so it's easier to show you. What I'm probably going to do is pull the yarn, these strands, through to the wrong side. I'll turn the sock inside out, and then I'll probably tie a couple of knots. I'm not particularly sensitive to knots in my socks, so I will probably just tie a couple of knots, and then I will weave in these ends as best as I can. And then I've got a lot more of this yarn left over, so I'll take some of the yarn and just reinforce that section by essentially doing a duplicate stitch on the wrong side, just going up and down around that area, back and forth a couple of times, just to reinforce it. It will probably look a little bit lumpy bumpy by the time it's done, but it'll have reinforced it, so at least hopefully that won't happen again. So I just thought I'd explain what I was planning on doing with that one. Yeah, okay. And then now I think I'm going to move on to acquisitions. Just really quickly, I wanted to say, I know a few other podcasters have talked about this recently, but some people feel a bit uneasy about showing the acquisitions or the stuff that people send them. And for me, anyway, I know that acquisitions is one of my favourite parts of a podcast to watch. I really enjoy seeing what other people get, either stuff they've been sent or some stuff they've been purchased or they've purchased themselves. It's interesting because it's how I've heard about so many different brands in knitting, makers and dyers and stuff. A lot of them I would never have heard of otherwise. So I quite enjoy watching that, and from the feedback I've been getting from you guys is that you guys enjoy that too. So I hope this sort of thing doesn't come across to show offy, because that's not really the intention at all. It's really just to share things that I enjoy and things people send me. I want to share with you so you guys can hear about it as well, and possibly find out about some new things that you didn't know about before. So I hope you enjoy this. First package I want to show you is from Deanna, who is also the host of the Skeins and Schools podcast on YouTube. And she has recently started a yarn dyeing business of sorts. I'm going to drop a whole bunch of things. All right, all good. So she asked if she could send me a donation for the podcast, and I said, yeah, sure, a prize giveaway. So she sent me a whole box of goodies, and I wasn't really expecting quite so much. So thank you so much, Deanna. That's really generous of you. And her yarn dyeing business on Etsy is called Swatch This Fibre Arts. One thing that I really like about this is Deanna is a homeschooler. She homeschools her son, and her son actually joins her on the podcast as her co-host, which is really awesome. And so all of her colorways are based off of literary characters or books and stuff like that. So that's really fun as well. So she sent 2 skeins in the end. She sent one skein she said was for me, and one was for a giveaway. So I picked this one because, I wonder why. And this is Madeline Fingering High Twist base, 80% superwash BFL, 20% nylon. Colorway is called Crenshaw, which is a familiar name, and I'm pretty sure I know where that's from. I just can't place it right now, and it's really going to bug me that I didn't look this up earlier, but anyway. And it's 400 yards and 100 grams hand wash. And it's really beautiful. I really love the colours in this. It's like the beautiful purples and the blues and the greens. It's like all my favourite colours in one skein of yarn. It is so lovely. And it is a BFL high twist, so it's not as soft as like a superwash merino necessarily, but it is. Look at that pop of blue there. That's so pretty. But it, it doesn't feel rough at all. And I really love her labels. Swatch This Fibre Arts. I really like the name. I thought that was really, really fun. She also sent a bundle of minis. Really love this one. Deanna, you got to tell me what this one is, because that's beautiful. That's lovely. Yeah, there's so many beautiful ones in here. There's some Felici that I recognise. There's some Patterns Croy I recognise. Otherwise, she hasn't labelled them, so I'm not entirely sure what the others are. But they are all so beautiful. This one, I think I know what this one is, but I'm not entirely sure. Again, Deanna, can you tell me what this one is as well? I'm really curious. Yeah, really fun minis. There's a little lavender sachet in there with the yarn. So as soon as I pull it out, the box just smells of lavender. She also sent some sweets. These are Lancaster naturally flavoured vanilla and caramel soft creams. These are delicious. She sent 3. I've had 1 already. I've been resisting eating the others so I could show you something. And tea. I'll get that later. And a really pretty card. I love this, and I love the saying on it. It says, every single day do something that makes your heart smile, which I think is very lovely. Now, onto the thing that you want to see, the prize that she sent. And so I picked this to be the prize skein. I wasn't going to take it out of the packaging, but I think I will so you can see it better. How beautiful is that? This is really, this is a beautiful colorway. It is just not something that is necessarily my taste. It's not something I would knit with this in a heartbeat for someone else, but it's not something I would necessarily wear. But I know there are so many of you out there who love these sorts of colors, these sort of pastel, rainbow shades. It's just up so many other people's street, and so I thought this would be perfect for the giveaway. It is her Shelley fingering, 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And the colourway is Wembley Worried. It's 435 grams in 435 yards in 100 grams. So it's a very lovely, generous skein. It's a really nice plump fingering weight yarn. It is so soft, like so soft. I want pillows out of this yarn. Yeah, it's just beautiful. And it comes with a little stitch marker. And the one that she sent me has a little owl stitch marker on it. How beautiful is that? And this also comes with, there's a lavender sachet in there as well. So this is going to be put aside for a future giveaway. I think this would look really lovely as a the main body section for a budding bluebell shawl, as with this really. I just like seeing all the lovely variegated yarns. So thank you so much, Deanna, for your lovely, generous donation and beautiful package of goodies. Loved it all. It was really funny because Deanna's package was one I had to go collect from the Central Post Office. So what happens is when I get mail, half the time, about 50% of the time now, my packages get opened by customs and such, and then they get packaged up again and sent to my mailbox. And my mailbox is quite small, so a lot of the time certain packages don't fit in the mailbox. And if they don't, they'll just leave a little card and I go collect it in the actual post office, and that's fine. Or it's in my mailbox. And then sometimes I get a card in the mailbox that says you have to go collect it from the Central Post Office. And I always find this quite interesting because when you go to the Central Post Office to collect something, I have to open it in front of them so they can inspect the package. But again, almost 100% of the time, whatever it is that I'm opening has already been searched by customs, so I don't really understand why they're making me look at it opening, why they want me to go and show it to them again. I don't argue, I just do it anyway, because I know no one is sending me anything illegal, or at least I hope no one does. But it's always funny because, again, the reaction I usually get when I open up a package and, they see yarn and they're just like, what is this? They're like, what? I don't understand. And I usually, what I actually do when I go to the Central Post Office is I always take an item of knitwear with me, either a shawl or a cardigan that I've made. So if they ask me, like, what is this for? I can show them, like, what I'm wearing and I say, look, I make this. I make this. It's just so much easier than trying to explain knitting to them because a lot of the time their English isn't that great. So having a visual to explain it is really helpful. So yeah, I always get quite a funny reaction at the post office when I have to open my packages there. The second package that I received this week was from a very, very lovely viewer of the podcast who took part in the expat yarn swap, and she wanted to send me a little package. And she's just said like a little something. Seriously, I think we need to redefine what little actually means to knitters, because I don't think knitters know how to do little. It just seems to be impossible. So first off, I'm not going to tell you her name because I didn't get her permission to mention her name, but I just wanted to show you this as the stationery that she wrote her note on. How beautiful is that? Well, her name begins with a K, I can say that much. But how beautiful is that note card? That's so lovely. And she's from Boise, Idaho. She sent me a little postcard from there. And she also sent me a variety of teas, and she sent me a bag of taffy, which I've never had taffy before, so this was interesting. As you can see, the bag's open, so I've had just one. I promise you it was just one. And she says the candy is huckleberry taffy from Oregon. So I've never had taffy before. It was an interesting experience. It was quite it tasted quite floral, this one. I don't know if that's just this flavour or if that's just taffy in general. It wasn't bad. I definitely think it will go really well with tea. So looking forward to working my way through this over some time, because that's a lot of taffy. But the main thing that she sent me, and she said both of these were for me, so I'm going to take her up on that one because they are both so beautiful. She sent me 2 skeins of yarn, which she said, let me just have a look. Where is it? I'm just trying to... Oh, here we go. The yarn is purchased from You and Brew in Meridian, Idaho. It comes from Moscow, Idaho. I had no idea there was a place in the US called Moscow. That's pretty funny. Or fun. And these are the yarns that she sent me. So it is I Heart BFL Sock Palouse Yarn Company. So this is, again, a yarn I had never heard of before. And I'm pretty sure many of you probably haven't heard of this yarn company before. And this is one of the reasons why I do this, to like show you guys what's out there. Really beautiful, beautiful colours. This one's a very lovely tonal, it's called Blue Canyon colourway, and it's 80% BFL, Blue Face Leicester, 20% nylon, superwash, 4 ounces is 405 yards. It is a beautiful colourway. I love this. And the purple one is called Elderberry, which is really fun. Very appropriate name for this colourway. Sorry about that. yeah, really very much my colours. I love this. This one, I showed it to Perry last night and I asked him if he'd like socks out of this colour. I've been on the search for a perfect blue, and this isn't quite that colour, but he said he liked it, so these will be socks for him. It's really funny because I have this skein of Into the World yarn sitting in my stash. It's Butterfly Effect. It's from their young club, one of their young clubs. And I've had it in my stash sat this way out for a long time. And every time Perry comes in, or I ask him to pick out a yarn for me to make him a pair of socks, he always inevitably goes and picks this. Because he's like, oh, I really like this blue. Then he picks it out and he sees this end and he's like, no. He doesn't want variegated, he just wants a single colour. He doesn't mind tonal so much, like this is okay, but he wants this colour blue. So I am eternally on the search for a skein of yarn in this shade of blue. A really nice sort of like bright blue. So now I've taken to putting the skein in this way around so he doesn't keep picking it, because otherwise he keeps going for the blue thinking it's different. I'm like, no, how many times do you have to pick out the same skein to realise it's not one colour? Anyway, so it's not the same by any stretch, but he does like this colour, so this will be for him, I think. And then the purple one has to be for me, obviously, because it's purple and it's my colour, and I don't actually have that many purple socks, which is strange. There should be more purple in my life. Yeah, so that is that for the acquisitions. I do have another package that's arrived, but again, it's at the Central Post Office and I haven't had a chance to go and get it yet. I'll probably try and swing by later today to pick that up. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and I'm back in a second. So back now with knit alongs and giveaway news. First up, we have the sweater cal, which is going on in the Knitting Expat group. That is going really well. I've mailed out the prize for the first quarter, and yeah, I'm really enjoying seeing all the finished objects that are rolling in. So yeah, if you are knitting a sweater or a garment of any kind, poncho, t-shirt, top, anything that's a garment and not an accessory, please come and join the chatter and enter your finished objects. That is running until the end of the year. And the second knit along that we had running was the Knitting Expat Shawl Cal, or the KE Shawl Cal, and that is now finished. That ended on the 31st of March, and today I'm going to announce the prize winners. We had 4 main prizes, and so let's get going. First up, the first prize was the across the pond sort of prize, as it was. There's a tote bag from Knitty City in New York and a skein of yarn from Vine Yarns that Kristen kindly donated to the podcast, and this is on her Blitz base. It's her Stella Banshee colourway, and I use this colourway, not on this base, but this colourway for my across the pond shawl design. A tin of travel mints from the UK, which this tin works really well as a notions holder, and a cute little notions pouch from my London fabric as well. So this prize bundle goes to entry number 227, which is BL Hearts Zumba, and she actually knit an across the pond shawl for her entry, that one, which is great. So I thought that was rather appropriate. And all the prize winners were picked using random number generator off screen because it would take too long otherwise. So congratulations, BL Heart Zumba. If you can, I stupidly didn't actually go to check everyone's names before starting, but please get in touch with me with your address and I will send this out to you as soon as I hear from you. And the second prize is what I decided, my Amina Makes bag in this is my large wide wedge size. This is pretty good size. You could probably fit a fingering weight sweater into this. I definitely used one of these to knit my featherweight cardigan out of this size bag, and a skein of yarn from Libe's Etsy shop, which was kindly donated. And this is 100 grams superwash merino, 350 meters, single base called Wild Poison, which is very beautiful. So these two are going to go together, and the prize winner for this one was entry number 329, and that's Ine. And I know Ine is Nina because she does the This Old Knit podcast. So congratulations, Nina. She also knits an Across the Pond shawl. And yeah, and this is your prize. So Nina, if you can get in touch with me with your details, and I will put this in the mail for you soon. And the third prize that I have is these 3 skeins of Loppy Einband. So this is Icelandic lace weight yarn. And the winner for this is number 251, and that was Knit Gizmo. So congratulations, and get in touch with me with your details, and I will send this out to you as well. And the fourth prize I don't have physically, but it has been donated by Eternity Ranch Knits, and that is a skein of yarn of the winner's choice, I believe, from their Etsy shop. And the winner for that is number 340, entry number 340, and that is Mum of 6 Who Knits. And I know that's Tonya because I've met you before, and she knits a For the Love of Rainbow shawl. So congratulations, Tonya. If you get in touch with me, let me know that you've seen this and that you know that you've won, and then I can put you in touch with Tammy of Eternity Ranch Knits and get you sorted with your prize. So congratulations on all the prize winners. I did also then decide to go and draw some prize winners from the chatter thread because I realised I enjoy doing that. And for the chatter thread, we're going to have some pattern giveaways. We did have a very lovely pattern donation by Marsha, the Very Little Podcast. Thank you, Marsha. She donated a copy of her Schmancy shawl, which is a really beautiful shawl with a lovely lace applied edging. It is stunning to look at, and has a very interesting shape to it as well. So it's really interestingly shaped to wear, to make it easy to wear. Words. And she has a couple of different options for the lace applied edging. So there's a simpler version and a more complicated version. And the winner for that I drew was number 164, and that's Mervi, Mervi. And so she won the Schmancy shawl. So if you get in touch with me, I will let Marsha know to send you that pattern. And then I drew 4 other winners from the chatter thread, and each winner will get a choice of a pattern of their choice from my Etsy shop, my Ravelry shop. So number 147, which is A Runner Bean, number 309, which was Graceful M, number 94, which is Ersiku, 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 number 240, Crafty Lynette R. So if you 4 ladies, I'm assuming you're all ladies, will get in touch with me and let me know which pattern you would like from my Ravelry shop, and I will give those to you. So congratulations. So that wraps up all the prizes that I have to give away this week. Congratulations to everyone who has won something, and I will, like I said, I will hopefully get these out to people shortly. And now we will move on to the questions and answers section. So I have quite a few questions this week. First up is from Sheps3. She asks, do you have any tips on dealing with pet hair and knits? With hand washing, I find I can't get rid of the collected pet hair, and I think all my knit socks now have gained an extra 10% of fibre content from dog hair. Honestly, I don't really know. I don't deal with it all that well either. I hand wash all my socks and I still have pet fluff, cat fluff on all of it. I have learned that my life is going to be covered with cat fur. There isn't much I can do about it. It is everywhere. It gets everywhere. It gets on everything, and I've just learned to live with it for the most part. Lint roller is your best friend. If it's really bothering you, you can try using a lint roller to get the hairs off. I generally don't know. I don't have a good answer for that because I have the same problem, as it were. So if anyone out there has a suggestion on how to deal with pet hair on hand-washed hand knits, then please let me know. The second question is from Nitpick56, and she says, Hey Mina, I was just wondering when you do most of your knitting each day, as well as how long do you knit on a given day? Oh, sorry, that took me by surprise. A fly or something. Also, I would love to see what you carry your notions, stitch markers, scissors, measuring tape, etc. in when you travel. And I left that over there. I'll go grab that in a second. But to answer your first question about when I do most of my knitting, as well as how long I knit each day. Well, as for when, if I'm traveling, pretty much whenever I have time. If I'm home, after I get all my work done, I find that if I start knitting in the morning, then I pretty much do nothing else all day. I will just knit, and very little else gets done. But what I do is knitting is my reward for getting everything else done that I need to get done in the day. So I try and spend the morning and as much time as it takes to get through as much of my to-do list for the day as I need to, as I can. And then I'll pick up my knitting. So a lot of the time, especially if I'm sewing or have a lot of errands to run, I don't actually pick up my knitting until 5 p.m. or later in the day. And then I just knit in the evenings. But on days when I don't have as much work to do or as much to get done, I will start knitting earlier. Sometimes I'll knit a small something in the morning, but with the intention of, okay, once I've knit this little bit, then I put it down and I go do work or do other things. I say work, it's not really work, it's just my list of things that I need to get done, be it bags, fabric prep, household things, running errands, whatever. I try and get all that done first before I start knitting, because I know myself, and once I start knitting, nothing else happens. So how much I knit each day just depends on how many other things I have to do, which is why I haven't had that much knitting time this week, and why it feels like I haven't done that much knitting. I mean, I know I've knit a lot of squares on my blanket, but other than that, I've not even done half of the shawl. I've not even gotten down to the heels on 2 pairs of socks. Like, I've really not done that much knitting for me, like considering how much I normally knit, or how productive I am knitting wise usually. It doesn't feel like I've actually accomplished that much this last week compared to what is my normal, just because I've been so busy doing other things. And I've had a few things come up from my actual job, which I still do part-time, and a few things have come up this last week that needed my attention, so that took some of my time as well. So it just depends really, week to week, day to day. It's all a bit different. And what I use to carry my notions and stuff, etc. when I travel, well, I usually have 2 things. Sorry, shaking the camera there. I have a little notions pouch like this, which is what I will put in whichever project bag I'm taking out for the day when I'm traveling. And then I have a larger notions pouch, which was gifted to me by Jenny at Tiny Paper Foxes, which I use to hold most things. And all right, I'm just going to go grab it really quickly. Sorry about that. And that's this one. It's a larger size. It's good. It's sturdy. It holds all the things that I need. There's a bunch of needles and stuff in there that I still need to organise and put away. But yeah, that's what I use to carry the majority of my notions, and that seems to be big enough for when I'm traveling. Right. So the third question is from A. Hubbard, and she asks, when doing a contrast cuff, heel and toe, do you know how much yarn you'd need to do this? I'm starting my expat yarn project and was considering using some of the amazing minis I got with that swap, but I wasn't sure there'd be enough yardage. And also, do you have a go-to cast on for cuff down socks? Okay. As for minis, how much you need for heels and toes, I'd say I use roughly about 2 to 3 grams for a heel, and probably about the same again for a toe. So you'd probably need about 10 grams to do heels and toes for 1 pair of socks, but that is heavily dependent on your gauge and what size sock you're knitting. So if you want to do cuffs, heels and toes, I'd say you'd be best getting using a 20 gram mini skein if you want it to all be one colour. But I'm not entirely sure, because I don't really measure how much I'm using. I don't really weigh it, if that makes sense. So I'd say yeah, I'd say about 10 grams for heels and toes on 2 pairs of socks should be okay, but I can't be 100% certain. If anyone else out there knows exactly how much they use, then please feel free to leave a comment in the episode thread. I'd be really interested in hearing that as well. And on that note, I do realise I completely forgot to mention about the expat yarn cal in the knit along section. We do have a knit along currently going on in the group, as well as the sweater knit along, which is the expat yarn cal, and that started on the 1st of April and that will run until the 31st of May. There are prizes for that, and you can see the prizes in the relevant threads in the group. And yeah, all the rules are in there as well, and so come and join in. It's been really fun to see what people are going to be knitting and what yarns they'll be using. And of course, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we have the 5,000 subscriber giveaway and the podiversary giveaway, so make sure you go and check those out and enter for a chance to win one of the prizes. Right, back to questions. Sorry about that slight diversion. The last question I have to answer was asked by Wonderkind, and she asks, your goal in 2016 was to knit more yarn than to buy or get gifted new yarn. Could you give a stat about that after the first quarter is finished? Yeah, sure. So not counting the yarns that I received today, but I have so far increased my stash by 50 skeins more than what I had last year so far. Seriously, January in New York killed it for me, but I still have the rest of the year, and I'll still hoping I will be able to get down to having less at the end of the year by the time than I had at the start. That's just like yarn in my personal stash, not including giveaway yarns and stuff like that, because that's going to be given away. It's not technically my stash. So yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. Not too great apparently, but I am working on it. I have a question for you guys this week. This week, a couple of weeks ago, I was contacted by someone who was quite desperate for some help with her sock knitting problem. Unfortunately, it is not a problem that I have ever encountered, so I wasn't even sure where to begin on how to help her. So I asked for her permission if I could ask you guys for help and see if anyone else has any suggestions for what to do. And she's asked not to be named, but has said that I can read her question out to you guys. So her question is, I'm just sort of like taking the it's quite detailed, but I think it's all relevant. She says she used to knit socks, and she's come back to it after a few years break. And she says I haven't been having much luck. I got really serious about it this past fall and have knitted about, 8 to 10 pairs since then, not counting several that I gave up on because they were turning out to be disasters. Of the ones I finished, none of them really fit me well. I've tried knitting plain stockinette socks, plain rib socks, blueberry waffle socks, Hermione's everyday socks. I've done standard heel flap heels, Hermione heels, recently learned the Fish Lips Kiss heel. I've adjusted the standard flap heels to be rectangular in shape as well as square. I've used thicker yarns, thinner yarns, larger needle sizes, smaller needle sizes. I've cast on 64 stitches, more and less. No matter what I do, I get a roll of sock fabric on the top of my instep, sometimes a couple of rolls. With the current sock I've been knitting, which I truly think I'm going to toss in the trash because I've had so much trouble with it, I used smaller needles, 2mm, cast on 64 stitches, did the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and the sock is very tight on my instep, and there are at least 3 rolls in the fabric in that area. I figured I was getting these rolls because the socks were too loose and that making them tighter and using the Fish Lips Kiss heel would eliminate that problem. Apparently not. Do you know of anything I can do to eliminate this problem and get a good fit? I'm willing to try anything. You can't begin to imagine the stash of sock yarn I have purchased, dreaming of all the socks I'm going to be knitting. I'd hate to have to give up on knitting socks. And that made me really sad because I don't want anyone to have to give up on knitting socks because, they're not happy with how the socks are fitting. But at the same time, I've never had this problem, so I have no idea how to help her or what advice to give. So my question, I'm putting this out there to you guys, is have you ever come across this problem? Have you ever had a situation where you've been knitting socks and you're getting this roll of fabric on your instep? Is that normal? Is that a problem? How do you combat that? Do you need to cast on more or less stitches? Anything, because from the sounds of it, she's tried pretty much everything she can think of, and yet it's still happening. And I'm not sure. I think she has a I'm not sure if she has a high instep or not. She didn't say in her message, but I have a relatively flat foot, so high instep is not usually a problem for me. But yeah, any advice that you guys might have to help her, please leave it in the episode thread, because I know she'd really appreciate it. So thank you in advance for any help. In other things, we have one coupon code running for the moment in the group, and that's a coupon code for G's shop, omgyarnandfibre.etsy.com, and the code is Knitting Expat, or in all capitals, and that gets you 15% off until the 10th of April. So you have a few days left to go make good on that coupon code. Moving on to shop news. Thank you so much. It was such a successful update on Sunday. That was amazing. Thank you again so much. I've never had so many packages to take to the post office. I've actually had to split it up into two trips. So I took one batch yesterday, and I have another batch of packages to send today. It was just, I didn't want to overwhelm the post office, and frankly, I didn't want to be standing there for 2 hours doing the post. So I had to split it up into 2 days, and I'll do the rest today after this has been finished. I do have, it's going to be interesting. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work out, and I'm pretty sure there won't be a problem. It's probably just me overthinking the situation, but I have one package that has to be sent to Israel, which is great. I've never sold a bag to Israel, but there again, I've never had to send anything to Israel from Bahrain before, and considering how strained the relationships are in the Middle East, between Israel and some of the other countries around here, I don't know if there is some sort of restriction on sending stuff to Israel, or if anything like that is an actual problem or not, because I've never had to. I don't know. So it'll be interesting. An interesting experience at the post office if... I don't know what I'm going to do if it does actually prove to be a problem. I'm going to have to contact the person and come up with an alternative solution, I think. But such is life. Anyway, I've never had to think about this before, so it's just something that's occurred to me that I'm wondering, is this going to be a problem, or is it going to be okay? I'm hoping it'll be okay. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I have quite a lot on my plate this month with regards to design projects, and still trying to catch up on things. And I have a couple of things I know that's going to come up from my actual work job that will need to be done by the end of this month. So I don't know when my next shop update will be. I do have some fabric prep for bags, and I want to do a whole bunch of fabric prep next week. So I think next week, what I'm going to do, all of next week, is just going to be fabric prep. I'm going to be cutting and ironing a lot of fabric, and I think my goal is going to be to prep as many prints as possible in a variety of sizes, and that way I can do maybe smaller updates. I don't know, we'll see. I haven't fully figured it out yet, but if I have a stack of prepared fabrics, then it will be shorter periods of time between updates, because then it'll be easier for me to sew batches if I don't have to do all the prep first. Well, like I said, we will see how this goes. Yeah, so that's it for shop news. Week in review. I'm really quickly going to run through this. So last week was just a big rush to get myself caught up, get myself settled back in, unpacking, doing all the laundry. Just my craft room is still a tip. There are still things that I haven't put away after getting back. I just have so much to do. It's actually quite overwhelming, and I think that's part of the reason why I hadn't knit so much, was this overwhelming sense of there is just so much to do. But I'm slowly getting there. So as I said, I haven't had as much knitting time as I would normally like. Then at the weekend, on Sunday, Perry got back from the UK when I picked him up, so that was really lovely getting to see him again. And it was really quite funny, because I thought his flight landed at 7, but it turns out his flight landed at 8, and I was just like, okay, so my shop update's at 9. I thought at 9 was going to be an okay time, because I thought he was going to land at 7, but I was like, okay, so I took my laptop with me just in case we got stuck in traffic, or if his flight was slightly delayed and he didn't get out quickly. But we got home with 5 minutes left to spare, so I was able to do the shop update at home. That was not a problem. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about is Perry has recently entered a competition with some of his classmates. They entered as a team. I'm not going to mention what it's about because it's not really relevant, but they've been accepted into the final round, which is great and amazing and really good for them. But the final round of the competition is being held in Chicago at the end of April, which is kind of gutting. It's a little bit, I feel a little bit gutted about it because I can't go with him. And I would have loved to have gone to Chicago again. We went for the first time a couple of years ago and loved it. But yeah, I can't go with him this time because of the whole visa situation. I used to be able to go to the US on the visa waiver program, get with an ESTA visa. And you just fill in online and you get the approval. But the rules changed earlier this year, and I talked about it a few months ago on the podcast, that citizens of countries who are part of the visa waiver program, who also have citizenship with Iran, and there's a couple of other countries on the list, but for me it's Iran. I have dual nationality. Can no longer go to the US under the visa waiver program. We now have to apply for a full-blown visa, which not only is a lengthy process but also costs $160 every time you want to get one, or just to apply. That's no guarantee that you'll get one approved, but just to apply for a visa. So it just means that short notice trips like this, for one thing, is not possible because I couldn't get a visa in time, but also, I don't know, I just think it's going to mean that trips to the US for me anyway, while this is going on, is just not going to be possible for a long time. In fact, I know the only trip that I will definitely be trying to make to the US is going to be next March for Perry's graduation at Columbia. So that's going to be one that I have to apply for a visa for. Perry's okay because he has a student visa, so he's already gone through all of the checks and stuff. So not only is it for people who are dual citizens, but anyone who's been to Iran or any of these other countries that are on the list in the last 5 years, which Perry has been to Iran. We went to Iran in 2014. So that's still less than 5 years ago. But he's okay because, like I said, he's got a full-blown visa, so a student visa. So he's already been through those checks. And so it doesn't affect him, thankfully, because that would have been a whole other mess to deal with. But yeah, it just means that trips to the US for me aren't going to be on the cards for quite a while now, which is a shame, really. It makes me really glad that I went as much as I did last year, and now I feel even less guilty about all the yarn I purchased in January, because I know that I'm not going to get that chance for a very long time. So yeah, it's a little bit sad, but it is what it is. I guess we're just going to have to go to different places, which is totally fine. I love to travel and see other places as well, but it's the first time, I think, that I have genuinely been the subject of such sort of restricted access in my travelling. I've never not been able to go anywhere. Even if I've had to get visas to go places, it's never been a problem. I've always been able to get the visa, or I've always known about it in advance, but I've never been in a situation where I've been allowed essentially free access without any issues to a country, only to then have that taken away. And that's a very strange feeling to have, like, oh, okay, suddenly I'm not welcome anymore. Like, it's very strange. Anyway, other things to talk about. There's not much else really going on, to be honest. Perry told me yesterday we've been invited to a birthday party this weekend, so that should be fun. Nice social outing. That we can't even remember the last time we did something social with other people when we were here. We don't really know many people in Bahrain. But this is actually one of his co-workers. It's her birthday, and her husband has invited us over for their for the birthday celebrations. They're a Portuguese couple, and they have a little boy. And from what I hear from Perry, that they're very lovely. I've never met them. I don't think he's met her husband. He works with the wife, the woman whose birthday it is. So she sounds really nice. So I'm looking forward to meeting them at the weekend. Yeah, other than that, I'm thinking of trying to add in a segment at the in future podcasts about life in Bahrain. I did a post on Instagram recently about the prices of like the fresh produce, like fruit and vegetables at the supermarket, and people were quite interested in that. the fresh products, like I said, like fruit and vegetables, are generally labelled according to where they came from, like what country they originated in. So, we get bananas from the Philippines, we get nectarines from Australia, we get oranges from South Africa, we get apples from the US, and so everything comes from all over the world, but everything's priced accordingly as well. So the sweet potatoes that come from the US are ridiculously expensive compared to regular potatoes that come from Lebanon, or like red onions that come from the US are like this beautiful round, really big, like perfectly shaped onions are ridiculously expensive compared to the onions which are slightly smaller and a little bit less pretty looking, the red onions that come from India. Those are stinking cheap compared to the ones from the US. So a lot of what I buy and the way that I do our food shop is based on what has traveled the least distance, because that's the cheapest stuff. The things that are local, essentially from the local countries around where we live, are cheaper than anything that comes from Europe or the US, and even from Australia sometimes is more expensive. But other than that, food is generally just really expensive anyway over here. It's definitely our largest expense. Overall, our living costs are less than it was in the UK, because our rent and our bills are a lot less, significantly a lot less. But on the flip side, food is a lot more expensive. So you win some, you lose some. So yeah, I'm thinking of introducing it. I kind of had it for a while before, but I've been traveling so much over the last few months, it's not really been easy to include this sort of segment in the podcast. But I'm thinking of including, like I said, a life in Bahrain sort of segment where either I'll show a video clip, or I will try to talk a bit about something to do with life in Bahrain. I know there's a good one that I could talk about with regards to schools. Obviously, I don't have any children, so I don't have any first-hand experience of this, but I've heard so much about it that I think I could probably shed some light on it, or at least explain to you what the situation is and how it's different to what it is like in the UK and I imagine other Western countries. And I thought maybe that might be interesting to hear about. So yeah, I think I'll probably start doing that from next week, hopefully, because I'm probably going to be spending a decent amount of time in Bahrain now before my next trip. And yeah, try and do that. The weather's really good at the moment. It's really nice weather, really nice sort of mid-20s to high 20s sort of temperatures most of the time, and it's perfect barbecue weather. Honestly, at the moment, right now is really good barbecue weather for us. So I think we might do a barbecue at some point soon. Yeah, I have a couple of video clips. I think there's one other one that I was going to insert, and I think I probably will have already inserted it somewhere in the middle of this podcast as a little Hugo and Derek interlude. So I hope you enjoy that. And I hope you enjoyed the little video clip of Derek at the beginning. I know he doesn't make an appearance on the podcast very often, so I want to try and include little snippets, little video clips of him that I take every now and again at home in the podcast, so you guys get to see him almost as often as you get to see Hugo. All right, take care. Hope you have a lovely day, and happy knitting. Bye.